The gentleman yields back. The gentlewoman from Indiana, Ms. Houchin, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for taking time to come and speak to us today, given the events occurring over the weekend, the Chinese spy balloon crossing, excuse me, the breadth of the United States with what appears to be a clear attempt to spy on our military assets. I'm really glad that this first substantive committee hearing we're discussing this important topic about the People's Republic of China, the Communist Party's, Chinese Communist Party's threat to our financial institutions and economy, but also our national security and our way of life. I have a question for Mr. Feddo. As a free market conservative, I read your testimony, and I'm particularly interested in your comments on how we can mitigate our risk while also maintaining a strong, open, free market investment environment.
Thank you for the question. What I'm focused on primarily in the written testimony is this notion of creating a new outbound screening investment regime, a new committee and a new bureaucracy to go with it. I tend to be a little shy of expanding government, and I wanted, if we need to do it, to make that decision based on facts and on a rational basis, and make sure that it is tailored to the problem we've defined. Here, I'm not sure we completely understand what we want to try and stop. I don't dispute that there is a national security risk that may need to be, the gap may need to be closed. And Mr. Ash, you can help me here, I think, in a second. But what my thought is to use something like what Mr. Barr is proposing, which is an expansion of the CMIC list, sort of a combination of the use of sanctions and export controls. It would be nimble, it would be precise, it would be clear to private actors what is in and out of scope. And but first, whether we go the committee route, and I've outlined a series of questions we really do need to answer before creating a new bureaucracy, or whether we go a sanctions route, we need to be very clear what it is, where the national security risk is, and that's, I think the intelligence community can help with that.
So you make note that the previous Congress and the Biden administration had considered creating a new government agency with very broad powers, and that would even oversee American firms and their allocation of resources and property and capital outside the United States, not just limited to China. And I believe your analysis of creating another bureaucracy with undefined and far-reaching powers, it certainly spoke to me and my constituents as an extreme version of overregulation and perhaps growth-stifling policies that could have a chilling effect on U.S. companies. So I'm wondering, you mentioned in your comments that CFIUS has some existing jurisdiction that could potentially be utilized here with the goals of regarding the threat of China through sanctions of Chinese military companies, modifying export restrictions, and building a comprehensive record of the risk gap. And I appreciated your line of questions there. I do hope that we will also take a look at things in the whole of Congress: espionage attempts, hacking attempts, attempts to steal U.S. technology, companies owned, debt held, land purchased, other national security threats by the PRC and the CCP. I'm wondering if you have any comments finally, and this could be directed at really any of the witnesses, Mr. Willems, Mr. Eshuk. Should we be concerned that outbound investment screening can go too far? And what are your comments on that?
Sure. The answer is yes, especially when you're discussing financial investments. One example from Erin Firma was this concern over risks presented by joint ventures between American companies and Chinese companies, and even that was a very expansive concept, blocking a particular kind of business transaction through the process, the legislative process that these committees went through. Came to the conclusion that it wasn't really about the joint venture, but rather what technology could be transferred. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we need to do here. Is it just that an investment is outbound, or what's at the root of the concern? And then do we have the authority? And my bet is we probably do have the authority.
Yeah,
we just need to tweak it a little bit.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, do you have any? You were nodding your head.
I agree it can go too far, and happy to elaborate in writing.
Thank you. My time has expired, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.